in the House, sitting on his own big chair, is the one and only Thomas Tuggle. And Thomas, by the way, is former. The last time I had on, he was active, and now he's former. Former Lieutenant Colonel, Mississippi Highway Patrol, former Director, Mississippi Law Enforcement Officers Training Academy, which everybody knows as Melota, and also retiring April of this year, and now working for the CIA and undercover operations. I'm just joking about that. How you doing, Thomas? Good to see you, man.
That could be true. I'm doing great, sir, and that could be true.
Well, it could be true, but we won't say anything about it that we've already said. Enough said. I know that you're just not going to be sitting around the house. I can tell you that, and at least not for a long time. So everything okay?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. We are. We're keeping busy.
Go ahead. Last time we talked,
we're keeping busy.
And good. Last time we talked about one of the issues out there that I find not a lot of people seem to be as interested in this as I do. But I just think it's playing on the psyche because of social media is where social media is. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, just a multitude, and some that we don't even use, but they're out there. All of these constitutionalists, some people call themselves constitutionalists, others are just people who want to make money, are pulling a hell of a lot of money out of the city coffers, being sued. Many of them don't even go to trial because they violated constitutional rights, so you don't need much of a lawyer for that. And what we're talking about is pressing law enforcement officers, men and women, county sheriffs, deputies, men and women in blue in municipalities, highway patrolmen across this entire nation. I have seen probably 4 or 5. I've shared some with you when you were on active duty that were from Mississippi. And basically, I worry that we're coming out of training academies, where you've been a part of for a long time, and they are not properly ready to go onto the streets with the laws of our state. Physically, they may be. I know you had some concern about that, so speak to that.
Yes, sir. That's something, and you and I have talked about it, and I appreciate you reaching out to me on that. And but what I do want to say is these officers are well trained, but these videos, these random videos that we're seeing popping up here and there, that's not an indication of poor training, but it is an indication that highlights where we need to spend more time training. I think the last video you sent to me was a trooper, and this guy challenged him and refused to produce his driver's license. Well, that is against the law. The new training director for MHP, his name is Captain Marcus Golly. I know for a fact, Paul, that he has instituted the what if this happens scenarios, and that is something that law enforcement needs to spend a lot of time on. MHP has some of the best training out there. Not only that, but Mississippi, you don't see our officers on national TV violating, people's civil rights and all, because we've been trained and been trained properly. But we do need, and these videos are actually helpful, we do need to focus more on the what if scenarios and teach these officers what would you do if the violator does this, and that kind of reality training needs to be pushed. And I know that MHP, after you and I talked, MHP is taking steps to fix that.
It seems to me, number one, and the last time we talked, I said it would seem to me to be as someone who has no law enforcement experience at all, but seems to me to be as easy as the Miranda rights. When this is what we're training you to do, regardless of what area you're serving in. Is my name is so-and-so, my badge number is this, the reason I'm stopping you is this. That's it. And then and if you want to, I'm with the Mississippi Highway Patrol or I'm with the Monticello Police Department. Something standard that you say, not stopping someone and said, let me see your driver's license, or getting into a confrontation, or even asking the question, do you know why I stopped you? And it seems like if that was standardized, then if somebody says, well, you can't stop me and ask for my, if you don't tell me why I haven't been stopped, you can't ask for my driver's license, then they should know one way or the other, is that against the law, or is it within the confines of the law of the state of Mississippi, period.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. And the standard stop procedures is this. let's just say I pull you over for speeding. Sir, my name is Thomas Tuggle. I'm with the Mississippi Highway Patrol. I stopped you because you were driving 87 in a 70 miles an hour zone. Sir, do you have any justification for that? That's pretty much, in a sense, how it goes. You identify yourself, you tell the individual why you stop them, and you're actually extending a courtesy to see if they have any justification for that. Some say, hey, my dad's just had a stroke. I'm trying to get to the hospital to make sure he's okay. Those are things that we look at, and that officer can extend courtesy, or he can go ahead and move forward on writing a violation. But that is the standard there. But some of these people are not giving the officer a chance to do that, Paul.
No. And here's another gray area that drives me crazy, especially today after 9/11, is if you're suspicious, and we teach everybody out there, certainly our law enforcement officers, and certainly today it's so tough on them because we're trying to tell them now, look at a guy and see possibly if this is a human sex trafficker or something. Is something going on? You see somebody in a vehicle with a young girl or a couple of young girls, and maybe they're looking back at you. The reason you stopped them was not for a traffic violation, but you've got to tell them exactly why you stopped them. Yes. And also the law itself. Somebody sent me this one. Here's the way the law reads. Every licensee shall have the required license in his immediate possession at all times when operating a motor vehicle and shall display the same upon demand of a justice court judge, peace officer, or license examiner, or other authorized employee of the commissioner. However, no person charged with violating this section shall be convicted if he produces in court a license theretofore issued to him and valid at the time of his arrest. So he's been arrested if there is no articulable reason for him to be arrested other than they want to check his driver's license. So now you have an arrest that violates his constitutional rights before you charged him with a crime or stopped him for a crime.
If that first violation that the officer, that I just say grabbed the officer attention is a hazardous violation, Paul, that is a arrestable offense. But this very same scenario happens to me back when the sovereign citizen movement was going on. Remember back in 2009, 2010?
Yes, absolutely.
I stopped an individual, Paul, for speeding. I stopped him. First thing he said, he let his window down probably a quarter of an inch. And I'm going to be real quick with this story. He said, I don't have to give you my license. I stopped him speeding. I said, sir, as of right now, you're only charged with speeding. I just asked for your license and you refused. That is another charge. As of right now, if you comply, only thing you possibly can leave here with is a speeding ticket and $200. But if you continue to refuse, this is how this is going to play out. I'm going to ask you 20 times for your license. Each time you refuse, it's going to be a charge that carries $200. I'm going to ask you 20 times. Now your fine is going from $200 to $4,200. And then I'm going to ask you to get out of the vehicle, and I pray that you refuse to get out of the vehicle because that carries a $200 fine. I'm going to ask you 20 times to get out of the vehicle, and I pray that you refuse. Now we go to $8,200. So two things that happen. We can go with $200 fine, or we can go with an $8,000 fine. But the pen is mightier than the sword.
And I love that, but we're missing the concept here. The ones that I have seen are the ones that are being contested that drive the officers crazy. And the problem is some of them lose their temper. I would in 5 seconds. Sometimes they overheat when it takes 5 minutes, and I don't. God bless them. I'm not sure how they hold on to their patience that long. When an officer stops someone, just as suspicion, but the tail light's not broken, the windshield's not broken, they haven't been driving erratically, they haven't been texting, but they stop them because of a suspicion.
Yes, sir.
And they want to see their driver's license. Just show me your driver's license. Why are you here? Why are you? And the same thing goes on for all of these individuals who are constitutionalists. They say, across from a school, on public property, but they're filming that school, or jail, or police department. And officers come across and they say, let me see your identification. Do you have to show your identification there if you're on a public place? Just because you're filming?
Yes, let me go back to the traffic part of it, because that's the original call. Now, this officer stops the vehicle for suspicion, okay, and he asked the individual for his driver's license refused. Paul, just by operating that vehicle on a Mississippi highway, he's already given consent to produce a driver's license. That's automatic. So if he refuses, so that's a charge, Paul. Bottom line, whether it's he is in control of that vehicle and it is on a Mississippi highway, he has to have an operator's license, and the officer's got a right to see that.
Yeah, but there's some gray area in the way the language is written on 2020 Mississippi Code, Title 63, Chapter 1, Article 1, 63.1-41. It's a gray area that the legislature may need to take a look at. A couple of other things when we come back, final segment with Thomas Tuggle. And think about this. If you're next to that school filming, but you're on public property, can they ask for your ID there? That's next with Thomas Tuggle. Also on our C-Smart text line at 601-879-4395. Many questions, and we'll see if we can get to a couple. But in that scenario, I don't want to catch you off guard with the Mississippi Highway Patrol, but if you were in that situation, what do you think the law states there? If you're in a public place and you're filming or just standing around.
I'm going to give you an example. Let's say this. Let's just say we've got a guy. He is not on school property, but he's outside of school property. He's filming, got a video. Yeah. That officer can legally detain that individual, keep him from leaving. Investigative detention is what it's called. But he has to be able to articulate why he's detaining that individual reasonable. In other words, articulate why he's detaining. Let's say the guy has a vest on and he's got grenades hanging off of it. I mean, he's got to be able to prove what the investigative thing was on that call.
But I mean, if he's filming, he's legally able to film it, whether he has an iPhone or a $5,000 movie script type camera with it.
I agree. We don't get into the point of violating his Fourth Amendment rights by any sense.
Yeah, but here's the problem, though. Why don't we have police officers around this entire country who you say that they're being properly trained, but that's got to be for not only physical but mental. They have to know the law before they leave that training academy. Wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And put enough attention to that.
I think that what I said earlier, we need to spend more time on the what-if scenarios, because we have, people like this individual that you showed me in the video that are looking for loopholes in the law. And there are loopholes in the law where they exploit those things. So I honestly do, Paul, and thank you so much for bringing this up. But that is something that we need to spend more time on the what-if scenarios and what to do. And I think everybody needs to be universally trained with one universal response to these what-if scenarios.
Yeah. And the reason I say this, Thomas, and for the rest of the family out there, is not so much for the social media thing. Believe me, it is that we need men and women to go into law enforcement, and it is tougher now than ever before. It has almost gotten to the point of the Vietnam days when the soldiers came back, where you're spit upon, and we have to have them. Looking at it nationally, not only do most of the police departments out there, even after defund the police, are down almost 50%, some of them 60%, but they're having a very difficult time getting recruits to come in. And I think most of the men and women out there want to know exactly, not only physically, but mentally or legally, how to handle some of these. And apparently they're ill-equipped in many parts of the country. One question here is, what happens if I presented you a passport instead of a driver's license? Would that do it? From Will. I'm not sure.
Is this individual operating a motor vehicle?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. Now, we need to see a driver's license, Paul. I mean, a passport is not a green light to drive a vehicle in the state of Mississippi. It's 63.141 says shall, and a passport is not a driver's license.
If you're from another country and you have, let's say, Canada or Mexico, do you have to have a Mississippi driver's license?
If that person has a driver's license and it was legally obtained through I guess you can say a person authorized to issue that driver's license, that's like the compact law. If a guy's got a Tennessee driver's license, it was legally obtained or it went through the process, he can drive that vehicle here. Same concept with, Canada, Mexico. I think that's called, I don't want to use the word, reciprocal agreement in a sense.
It's just as if we went there, we can do it. Make sure you have your insurance, but sometimes
they'll take it legally now. You don't want.
Yeah, right. Sometimes Aaron and Madison said sometimes they don't, that I got a ticket. They pulled me over yesterday. Wouldn't say anything other than here's your ticket. Well, I would think that they would have to give you a reason, but apparently they didn't to him. There are some changes, and times change things. Social media has changed things, and we always, I guess, need to go back and take a look at that. But you've had many traffic stops during your tenure with law enforcement. Can you give us an idea? Leave us with a story or two that we will think about, and
Yes,
any that you can legally tell us about.
Yes,
That you
this
share
is a
with
short,
some
real
friends
quick.
when we're having a beer. Go ahead.
Yes, this is a short one, and Thomas Tuggle has written a lot of citations over the years. Governor Fordyce was fortunate enough to send me back to DeSoto County after I graduated trooper school, and he told me, I'm going to use his language. He said, you can go back up there and candy ass if you want to. You're going to find out what salt water tastes like. So in other words, he's going to transfer me to the coast. So I came back to DeSoto County, I wrote a lot of citations. But Paul, this is what I could have dinner with everybody I wrote a citation to, and it's a good thing because when I was trying to get an indictment on a felony DUI, which is death, we came back with an indictment, and right after it, 5 or 6 of the people sitting on the grand jury I had written a citation to. But they said he was very nice to me, and I was wrong. So I was very fortunate enough to be able to be on the right side of that.
Thomas, love to have you back on, sir, when we discuss matters, because you know a lot about them and a lot of experience. I thank you for taking the time, sir. Have a great week.
Thank you, Paul. You enjoy the rest of your day. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, man. Thomas Tuggle.